Welcome to another Saturday project where we explore all different how-to scenarios from all sorts of aspects of life, and we make it a great day. Hey there, world of YouTube, and welcome to another Saturday project. Today we are going to be exploring sewing cloth diapers together, and this is going to be done by me. Yes, it will be. My wife is currently working and going to school. I recently finished up my bachelor's degree, so I have a little bit more time on my hands, and I am definitely the more hands-on handyman type person here in the home, no matter what type of project it may entail. So we're going to get into that, and this may be relatively long. We will see. Hopefully it won't be too long. I'll try to speed things up throughout the process, but I would definitely want to capture all the steps possible here and roll out that project. So here we go. Let's get into it. All right, so the first step is well, either ordering your material offline or whatever material you want to use. Make sure you find that, but more importantly, you need to get a pattern. So I found this pattern online. It was free, and I just made one small change to this pattern to make sure it would be usable for all sizes and not just small to large. This would be usable for an infant as well. So the first thing we need to do here is use our selector tool, and we're just going to drag a square rectangle around these bottom buttons. These are actually the sockets, and then we're just gonna Control C, Control V to copy and paste that, and it's right over top. I want to make sure we select the correct layer then, and we're gonna hold Shift while we move this up so it gets in line, and we're just eyeballing this, and we want to make sure it is about an inch and a half. Right about there is about right. And so now we've just added another line here, do the whole thing, of snaps. So now this cloth diaper pattern can be used for all sizes, infant up to large children. I believe around 3 years of age or something like that. Hopefully they're potty trained by then, right? So that's all I did for my pattern. After this, I print this out, and I added to some cardboard type stock material that you can pick up at any arts and crafts store, and I'll show you that next. So here we have a material which is a matte board, almost like cardboard, but it is a matte 9001. It was 20 by 32 inches in its entirety. Whole thing was large, about that size, and I printed this out, taped it on, and really just cut it out from there using a pair of scissors. And then I also used an awl to make the holes where the snaps and sockets would go, and I just pushed it right through the center on the template. Actually, it was really simple. It didn't give me a lot of trouble. Even cutting it with scissors was not all that hard. So you just do all the holes with that, and you're all set to go to trace your material, which we'll get into next. So once you have your materials and your template, you're going to begin the tracing process. And you're going to want to use a nice fine tip marker and a yardstick. It becomes very helpful. And I'll put a link in the description of where I got all my material. So when we start, we're going to open it up, and we're going to make sure the face is face down, where the outside of the material is face down, and the inside is face up. It's a lighter color, and it will assist in the tracing process, and it makes it much easier to see your pattern once you have it traced out. So I begin in one corner, and we want to make sure we have at least a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch all the way around your pattern once it's been traced. So I'm using the yardstick to make sure the top of the pattern here is at least 3/4 to 1/2 inch away from the edge. And once I have that, I'm just going to go ahead and trace the pattern. And you're going to hold it very sturdy and still. Trace all the way around the outside. Move my pressure to where it's needed. And then I'm going to go ahead and go through all my little snap spots that I made with the awl. And once you've done that, you'll see your pattern, and you can now see your dots, and then you'll know where you're gonna poke your awl through once you get that far to add snaps to all this. So now I'm just going to speed this up. You should be able to get at least 6 diaper patterns to 1 yard of material. That's 2 per side, 3 the length of it. Now there's one difference with all your materials here. As far as tracing goes, your cover here material and your inside material are going to get slightly different tracings, only because all these snaps here are going to go on the cover, and the two at the other end for the inside material are going to get these 2 snaps, and so you want to make sure those are only on the white and the rest are on the cover. But once you have all your patterns traced out, next thing you want to do is cut out your patterns. And my first step is to cut straight down in between 2 of the patterns across the width of it. And again, I'm not cutting right up to the line. I'm leaving myself 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch all the way. Once I get that, I'll start to cut around the pattern, curves and whatnot of the pattern. Again, not cutting up to the line, but leaving 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch all the way around the pattern. And it's okay if it's not beautiful. This is just going to be inside the diaper anyway, and you can trim off if it's too large later. And I just trim off my corner. And there we have one pattern completely cut out. I save my scrap. I fold up the pattern and I continue to cut out the rest. So we'll speed this up. Our next step is to add the KAM Snaps. They come here in multiple colors. If you order all white, I'm using white for this project. I think it'll be easier. You also need your awl, and this is really a simple process, but it just takes probably one of the longest tasks of putting together a cloth diaper. So now on the inside, we have our pattern already. And we have all our dots where we want to poke through with the awl. And if we look at our pattern, there are certain snaps for certain locations. All the ones across the top are sockets. There's some snaps here, and the rest of these are sockets. And these two that go on the white section are also snaps. So you mostly use sockets and not so many snaps, so you want to keep that in mind when you're ordering your supplies. Again, all sockets across the top. But we're not going to start there. We're actually going to start in the middle. It's easier to get your tool in with the snaps when you start down the middle and work your way towards the outside and then across the top. So you just simply poke your awl through your material, grab a stud, stick it from the inside through to the outside. And then you want to grab your socket, place it onto the stud, grab your KAM tool, and you really got to work the material in through until you can get the stud to sit in the black piece here. The stud here will go and sit flat in that black piece. So you got to work the material in. This is why it's easier to work from the inside center to the outside. And once you get it, you'll know you got it set in there. Pull all your material through, hold it snug, and then just give it a good squeeze. And it doesn't take much pressure to get that to work. And then you're done. You have one snap in already. Relatively simple. And then we'll speed up here the process for the rest of them. And there you have a completed snap cover. Alright, so for this next step, you want to make sure you have your inside material and your cover material face to face. The inside of the material is facing out, the outside of the material is facing in. And you want your pattern lined up on each side. You could use pins to hold it together if you like. I choose not to. It seems to be easier for me. And you just are going to now sew these face to face almost all the way around. Now I recommend starting at the top here where the buttons are and just sew a straight line across that portion, and then it kind of holds everything together for you. Since it's a straight line, it's easier to start there. We'll just drop the needle in. Make sure we got everything snug and squared up. And then we'll just slowly start and sew across the line. Now it's important that you keep everything taut, and you have to pull the material through when you're holding everything taut at times. But you just want to guide everything, keep everything nice and straight. If you run into an issue, just stop and fix it. And I will say sometimes the faster you go, the easier it is. Sometimes it's not the case. And you want to get to the end of the corner and just stop. Pull the needle up. Finish up the line first. And we're going to start to sew all the way around down to where the back elastic would start, but we're not going to go all the way. So again, you just want to keep everything nice and taut and kept together, and I'll speed up the process here. So now that we have the one side done, we're going to go ahead and start from the other corner again where we originally started, and we're just going to sew the other side. And so it's just like the other side, first side that we did, and we're just going to do it again down to the back where the elastic would start. And I'll speed this up. So there we have the entire thing sewn together, back or front to front, and we're just gonna now move on to sewing on the elastic, and I'll get to why this back is opened up in a minute. But this is where the pocket is and everything, and we'll go over that shortly. Okay, once we have everything sewn together face to face, you want to look at your pattern. I got extra marks here. They show me on the back and on the sides where my elastic is going to be running. So I just need to transfer those over to my already made diaper. And sometimes I do this first. Sometimes I decide to sew it together and then mark it. Just in case I make a mistake, it sometimes helps alleviate some of the issues you can have with inconsistent sizes or whatnot with your stitching and pattern. So I'm just transferring those marks onto the diaper on the inside over where the stitching is at. This way I know the elastic will be running along the stitching. I'm now going to cut my elastic. It's important to understand how to cut this. I'm going to lay it out in between my lines, get my length, and then I'm going to double it over. And I'm going to cut it off where the double over end is at. And then I'm going to cut it in half. Now I have two pieces of elastic, one for each side, identical lengths. And we'll understand why that happens in a minute. I then also need to cut one for the back. It's actually very close to the same size as the sides, but I decided to do this separately just in case if my pattern and stitching is off, I have a correct length. So again, measure between the lines, double it over, and cut it off. Now to sew the elastic on, we're just going to line it up with the mark that we have. We're going to overlap that mark just a bit, probably about a 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch. We're going to put it under the presser foot, line it up so we can get the needle through it at least. That way it holds everything together for you until you can get situated. And we're still just using a straight stitch, and we're just going to go forward and backward and forward. And that'll be enough just to hold that elastic in place until we can sew it in properly. We're now going to flip this over. We're going to line up the elastic with the other side. Again, we're using our mark. We're going to place it underneath. We want to keep it straight along the stitch line. Work it under the presser foot. Sit her down. Put a needle in. And just sew forward and backwards to adhere this. Now that we have both sides secure, we're actually going to sew the elastic to the material. And you always want to make sure your elastic is on the cover side and not the inside, or the white, softer side. And when you do this, you put it on the presser foot and you're going to stretch out the elastic. You're going to have to pull the material through because you're stretching it towards yourself and it won't go. And you just go straight across using the elastic stitch. If your sewing machine has that. And you just stop at the end and you're done. And you just do that for both sides. We're now going to begin the back elastic. We want to make sure we don't sew the inside here because we want to make this open, and this is where the pocket is so you get your soaker or absorbent material into it. This is my way that I've devised to do this. It seems to work pretty well and doesn't cause too much trouble. Now we need to do a straight stitch just so we can tack this elastic to the material. And just like the sides, I'm going to put it under the presser foot, put it down, and just run a couple stitches forward and backwards. Forward, reverse, and forward. As always, we'll then go to the other side and make sure it's adhered to that side. We just take it to our line or mark that we've made, slide it under the presser foot, put her down, get the needle in to hold her in place, and just run a couple forward, backward, and forward stitches. Now that that's complete, we're going to attach this with the elastic stitch, but we're going to make sure we don't catch that cover again, or the inside I mean, and this is all done with the cover. And I overlap the material here to go on top of the elastic, and I lower my needle in to hold it together. And you'll see this when I pull this taut what it looks like. So there you go, you see the cover is over, now pulled over, make sure we don't catch the cover, pulled over top. So this elastic is going to be sandwiched in between the top cover layer just twice. Again, you got to pull it taut and then pull everything through, and just make sure you don't catch your inside cover at the same time. And there you have it, the back elastic is now attached to the diaper. Alright, so now we're just going to right side our material. Basically just pull everything, and you can trim these edges a little bit more. I like to trim my corners a bit, makes them much more prominent because you don't get a bulk of material in the way. So you may want to do that. You could do it all the way around if you cut quite a bit of ways, or you can, leave it the way it is. And then you just want to right side your material. And you want to make sure you poke everything out the way it should be. This is now the direction the diaper will be in its completed state. So there we basically have a completed diaper. Just a few more things we got to do to it and it'll be complete. So let's get to it. Okay, so now we're at the point where we're going to top stitch the entire diaper. It's going to hold everything together real well and make sure everything stays together. And we're just going to start at the back side where our elastic is sewn in, and we want to make sure our material is nice and neat. And we're going to start right at the edge of our elastic like we've done before. And we're just going to do a quick back and forth stitch to make sure everything's going to stay together right here. Forward, backward, and forward. And I'm just going to lift my presser foot, spin the material around, and we're going to go all the way around the edge of this diaper, and we're going to stop at the other side of the back elastic. And you want to make sure all your edges are nice and neat, and you're going to sew around about 1/8 of an inch from the edge of all the material, except for where the elastic is, and you're going to sew about 1/4 of an inch when you're running by an elastic. And I'll demonstrate this real here quick, and then we'll speed up the process. So this is essentially the last step. The diaper is basically complete. We just need to add the 2 snaps on the tabs here in order to close the diaper. And we can see our marks from on the inside that we made earlier. And we're going through a little bit more material here, so it gets a little bit more difficult, which is why I said you may want to trim your material on the inside before you flip it all the way around, because you may have a better chance of missing all that extra material. So you're just putting on a snap, same as we did before on the cover. And I find going all the way through like this really holds things together better and makes it so much easier when you're snapping it in or unsnapping it. Plus you're not dealing with all that extra material like you were in the beginning. Much easier putting these snaps in. I just went through a ton of material here, so I'll try and get it through, but I'm probably going to have to open this up to remove some material so I can get that stud all the way through. I'm just going to re-invert this tab here. I'm going to look at the edge, see how much material is there, and see if I can trim something off. See where my awl went through, see if I can find the hole. And we're just going to trim it down so we can get our KAM snap in. Now be careful doing this. You don't want to ruin all those stitches that you just did and you end up with a hole in the corner of your diaper or something. So I think that'll do it. I'll flip her back around. I'll probably need to remake my hole, but make sure your hole's nice and open. It's really hard getting through that inner material and with the hole staying open, but here we got it. And we're just going to clamp her down. I'm going to squeeze these ones extra tight, make sure I can get as much compression as possible. And there we go, we'll put in our last snap. And we are done. We have a complete diaper that we can now snap together. And of course I'm putting it on the smallest setting, at least these front snaps, but there's other snaps in the front can also make it smaller. But there you have a nice little diaper. All done, all complete. As always, thanks for watching my Saturday project. If you like my channel and the video, please like and subscribe. If you do not, feel free to give it a thumbs down, but more importantly, shoot me a comment on what you didn't like so I can correct whatever issues I may have, so I can try to meet all the needs of the viewers here on the channel. Thanks again. See you on the next Saturday project.